Hey guys, it's Sam, and in this video I'll be critiquing Alejandro's art. Hopefully I said your name right. They submitted this piece and they said the goals were just basically practicing grayscale, and they had some struggles with the details. So to start off with, I think the blending is actually pretty good. It's very nice and smooth, and you've got some pretty good distinct shadows. You also have some nice variation with the values. You have some dark spots and you have some lighter spots. The dark chips really help stand out from the lightness of the cookie. And you have some good start to the detailing. The misshapenness is nice, like the edges aren't completely smooth. It helps make it feel more organic and realistic. So while the values are pretty nice, I think you could probably push it just a little bit more. Here I am playing with the levels, just trying to make a couple of adjustments just to make things a little bit stronger. It doesn't have to be too much. Here's just a before and after. Just you'll notice that things kind of pop a little bit more, your eyes are a bit more drawn to it. So don't be afraid of like really pushing the values and really layering on with pencil. And speaking from experience, I know that sometimes it can be hard to get really dark with pencil, but if you go from light to dark and just really get in a lot of layers, you can get pretty dark with graphite. I'm just assuming you used graphite with this. Another thing with the values, and you kind of have that a little bit like right here in this section and a little bit right here. It's just a little bit hard to tell kind of where the cookies are in relation to each other. And I think adding in some more deeper shadows of where like light is being blocked by a cookie in front of another one could help kind of make things more cohesive. I went ahead and pulled up some reference photos that I found from Pixabay, and I'll have links in the description so you can find these references and use them as well. Just to help compare your drawing to an actual photo of a cookie, because using references is always a great idea, and it can just really help show you just some things that you might be struggling with or having difficulties with, because you mentioned having difficulties with the details, and I think in this instance using references would help you really understand like how to do the details and what details to do and stuff like that. So like for the shadow thing that I mentioned before with having, you know, them cast shadows on each other, you can see that's happening right here. So like I know that this cookie is on top of this one because there's this shadow that's kind of like showing the connection between the two of them. And it doesn't have to be like a deep shadow like this. This is just so super deep because they're close together. Obviously the further apart the cookies are, the lighter and more spread out the shadow would be. If you don't have any cookies readily available with you, you can play around with just other objects and just stacking them on top of each other or playing around with light, and that's also a good way to see references for shadows. And like I said, the detailing is a nice start. It just doesn't really look done, like you didn't finish. And I say that just because like you could have kept going. If you look like right here in this section, like you can see the little cracks and just the subtle value changes, because when you're doing something like this, the changes in value are like really what sets the show. Like that's how you really show details with this. I mean, even right here, it's subtle, but you have like this change going from here to here, and you have this very clear line. And it just shows to me, oh, there's this little bump right here. And you kind of have that starting with some of yours, like right here, that's good. But don't be afraid to just really go crazy with it. I mean, every cookie is gonna look different, and that's kind of the fun thing with this, because it doesn't have to be, like there's nothing exact that you're doing. And the cracks that you have are like a good start, but I think what's kind of jumping out at me right now is that they're all very samey, and there's not really any variation with it. And so like what I'm saying is, the line is just kind of like this, instead of maybe you have a thin part and maybe there's a thicker part, maybe it gets thin and then thick again. And if you look over at like these cookies, like you'll see, it's probably a little bit hard to tell, but like there are little edges of the cracks, and then they get really thick in a spot and then thin and then thick again. Just adding a little bit more variation I think would make it more interesting and lifelike, realistic sort of thing. It just helps to like emphasize the imperfections of the cookie. And like I said, good start, just maybe like erase some lines, make them a bit thinner, or just add some thickness to lines. It just helps give our eyes something to like bounce around to with the details. And I know I showed you that I was playing around with the levels on Photoshop, but you definitely don't need Photoshop to be able to figure stuff like this out. Like I know I can just do this in 2 seconds in Photoshop, but if you have a smartphone, you can also do it on your phone. There's like a little edit setting where you can like edit photos and then play around with contrast. It's a bit more crude than Photoshop, yeah, but it still can help you get an idea and maybe help see like, oh, what would happen if I were to push the values a bit darker and more extreme, or it just, so you can edit the picture without having to really edit your actual drawing and like potentially take it in a direction that you wouldn't have wanted. And if you don't have a smartphone, there's also free programs like GIMP, or there's websites like eZimba. I'll put a link in the description to both of those guys if you want to check them out. But yeah, using technology, even if you're a traditional artist, can be a great way to just ask yourself like, oh, what if I were to do this? And you don't have to potentially ruin or do something with your artwork that you would have otherwise regret. So you can just figure stuff out and plan ahead. And for example, like had this been a color drawing, like these color pictures, you can do the same thing if you want to check your values. So I just put it on a black and white layer in Photoshop and just gives you a nice check for values. So if you're ever doing a color picture in the future and you want to make sure that you have some nice strong contrast with your values, then, same thing, just open up GIMP, eZimba, something, turn it black and white, and it can really see what your value range is. But this was a good start though. I think you definitely nailed the fact that they look like cookies, which is definitely important. And I think that's a really great start. I think it's just basically you keep going, just play around with line thickness, play around a little bit more with contrast, and I think this could be a really nice piece. So I hope you and anybody else watching found this helpful. Thank you again, Alejandro, for submitting your work. I wish you all the best in your artistic ambitions. And just a reminder, you can find the links to these reference photos in the description in case you want to check them out yourself. And that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching. Bye.